Coming up next on this special economics edition of Arizona Horizon, why are Arizona's job recovery numbers lagging behind national employment figures? Also tonight, a new report looks at how to make the Sun Corridor more competitive, and we'll talk about increasing the Phoenix region's global footprint. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this special economics edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. We begin tonight with a look at jobs. Arizona is lagging the national economy in recovering jobs lost during the Great Recession. To find out why, we asked Lee McFeeters, the director of the J.P. Morgan Chase Economic Outlook Center at ASU's W.P. Carey School of Business. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Let's talk about this. The U.S. employment level now back up to pre-recession levels. Arizona's isn't. Why?
Well, the national economy added another 200,000 jobs last month. So that was a real milestone. All the jobs lost in the recession have now been recovered, about 8.7 million at the national level. You look at the Arizona numbers, we are just better than 55% recovered. So there's quite a difference between where the national economy is and where Arizona is in terms of getting all those lost jobs back.
Talk about that difference. What are we seeing here?
Well, the difference really has its basis in the fact that the U.S. economy lost 6% of jobs. Arizona lost 12%. On top of that, Arizona went into the recession sooner. Came out of the recession later. So went in sooner, came out later, fell further, and therefore we have a much bigger hole to dig our way out of. On top of that, you have the fact that the rate of growth has simply been in the range of about 2%, where we need 4 to 5%, I think, to really have the kind of Arizona recovery that most analysts were expecting a couple of years ago.
I think most would understand that we got hit extra hard during the recession, so it might take an extra hard effort to get out of that particular hole. But the rate of growth is 2% business. What's going on there?
Well, the drivers that we usually see in Arizona have been fairly sluggish. For example, you'd expect construction to be one of the leaders in recovery. This is what you historically see in recession comebacks. Right now, we're seeing construction job growth about 1%. We are seeing a fairly weak housing market. Commercial building is not very strong. So construction is simply not in the picture right now. Although, growth is positive, but it's just not a driver of the economy. Retail sales affected by the fact that personal incomes are not growing very fast. So that's a large sector. A big part of the Arizona economy is retail, and that's not growing very fast as well. And then you have tourism, which is affected by the national economy. And since the national economy is still some distance from where you would say, we were having really robust growth, tourism is not as strong as it might be.
I would imagine in-migration still isn't doing all that well, because you've got folks who still can't sell their homes perhaps somewhere else, and the job opportunities here may not be. It's almost like a vicious cycle. If you can, you're looking for a job here, you can't sell your home to get here. I mean, it's all kind of a loop.
That's very much the difference between where we are with this recovery and where we have been in previous rebounds. Population growth is probably going to be under 1.5%. Just to give you some context, in a strong Arizona economy, you'd expect to see 2 to 3% population growth. That drives housing, that drives service employment, and we're simply not seeing that wave of people moving to Arizona right now.
We are seeing and keep hearing about these big scores, whether it's Apple or State Farm. I think folks are expecting to see better numbers after hearing those particular stories. What's going on?
Well, all of that is to the good, of course, but each of those represents a few thousand jobs, and those are very valuable jobs, good jobs, but we have an economy with 2.5 million people in the labor force. What we really need is something in the range of 3 to 4% growth. That would be 100,000 jobs a year. we haven't seen 100,000 jobs added to the Arizona economy since, I would say, 2006.
Yeah.
So we're, close to 8 or 9 years since we've really seen the kind of growth that this economy is capable of.
We also hear about tax breaks and tax credits. Just, in general, how much of a factor are those in what has been Arizona's recovery? Regardless of how that recovery is going, are they impacting what we're seeing out there?
Well, I think one of the key things here is that when you look at the tax structure, you want to be competitive. You don't necessarily have to have the lowest taxes. I think that you do need to be competitive, and I think Arizona has taken some steps, especially with business taxes, to get us more in line with what some of the competition is doing. On the other hand, when you look at a business and you look at their costs, what are the costs? The costs of equipment, the costs of supplies, the costs of labor. Taxes is way down the list in terms of its proportionate contribution to the total budget of a business. But certainly lower taxes are better, I think, as an attraction.
How about it as an attraction or perhaps a repellent? The image of a state. Arizona's image has been hammered, some would say unfairly, but hammered nonetheless. Is that an impact on a slow rebound?
To some extent, we do have a business model, a development model that is based on the idea that this is an attractive place for business to relocate, for people to come and perhaps have a better quality of life and reinvent themselves. And to the extent then that we show up on the Jon Stewart show, behind the host and some sort of perhaps sarcastic remarks, none of that I think is very positive. On the other hand, if you had a stronger economy, I think, and we had a better job growth kind of environment right now, I think that would probably be one of the key things we need in order to get people and businesses to relocate here.
Interesting. I noticed in these latest numbers, California and Texas doing very well, kind of leading the U.S. rebound. A place like New Mexico, as far as getting those jobs back, doing very poorly. Why are some of these states doing well? Why is New Mexico, for example, doing so badly?
New Mexico is a state that has a higher proportion of employment in government, and at the federal level, government jobs have been decreasing since, I believe, 2011. You look at Arizona or most other states, you find that local government jobs have been decreasing for several years. So to the extent that you depend on government, this is not perhaps a very good time to expect your economy to be showing much growth.
And last question here, as far as the U.S. economy, just in general, we talked about Arizona, but the U.S. economy in general, the recovery is taking its time, to say the least. Why is that? Why has this been such a long slog?
The driver of growth at the national level, after you kind of set aside special circumstances having to do with energy production and so forth, is the consumer. 70% of the economy is accounted for by the consumer, and consumers are still paying off debt. In many parts of the country, consumers are still underwater. Arizona, less so than we were, but still a problem. The consumers still see a high unemployment rate, and now we're seeing this emerging problem of the presence of student debt, perhaps slowing down the ability of consumers to really make purchases, big ticket purchases, simply because of their debt load of consumer debt tied to their college experiences.
So nationally, though, at least those jobs are coming back. I guess if you put the population increase in there, though, you have a whole new metric. But the fact is, jobs are coming back. Arizona jobs are coming back, just not quite as quickly as we'd like.
They are coming back, and in a couple of sectors, really, we're seeing great growth in finance. We're seeing great growth in healthcare. And Arizona is ranked in the top 5 states in the growth of both of those sectors. So those are good jobs, good wages, and I think that's an important boost for the Arizona economy.
Indeed. All right, Lee, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Arizona's Sun Corridor is seen by many as an economic power waiting to happen. ASU's Morrison Institute is out with a new report on how to make the Sun Corridor more globally and nationally competitive. Dan Hunting is the senior policy analyst for the Morrison Institute and one of the report's co-authors. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The Sun Corridor, now correct me if I'm wrong, Prescott to Nogales or kind of something like that?
Kind of something like that. It's you can think of very fluid boundaries. Our world, we often think of things in sort of political terms. I'm in Maricopa County. We're in Congressional District 7. We're looking at an economic model here, and economies are not so easily defined as that.
So it's not necessarily a natural formation, it's a what you got formation now.
It's actually a very natural formation.
Interesting.
That unlike a political boundary where somebody sits in a room and decides this is going to be this city council district, the economic things like this grow up on their own accord of people just transacting business.
So it is organic then, if you
Yes,
will.
absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
how much of a player in the world, in the United States, right now is the Sun Corridor?
The Sun Corridor, if you look at us as an agglomeration of that Phoenix to Tucson and surrounding areas, it puts us almost in a top 10 market in the United States, as opposed to just Phoenix alone, we're maybe 12 or 13. So it really bumps us up to the point where we're a big time player.
And how do we become a bigger time player?
Well, I think part of that is by leveraging the advantages you have of combining the two large economies of Phoenix and Tucson. That there's a lot to be gained by looking at us as a combined economy.
How do you do that? How do you push this regional thinking, this regional branding, if you will?
Well, branding is definitely a lot of it. That we need to start thinking when we're looking to draw businesses here from out of state or from other places in the world. People aren't looking at Phoenix versus Tucson. If you're a German company looking to set up a manufacturing plant here, they don't think about should I be in Phoenix or Tucson. They think should I be in LA or should I be in that desert place a little inland there.
So with that in mind, how do you get the cooperation? How do you get this idea of everyone working together?
Well, I think it's just going to take a lot of creative thinking on the part of our leaders, that they need to recognize that this is a real thing and it's really there, and to consider what's happening 100 miles up or down the road in making those decisions.
I know the Sun Corridor's strongest assets were addressed in the report. You mentioned geography as a natural asset. Talk to us about that.
Well, one of the things that people think when they first hear this concept of Phoenix and Tucson as a combined economy is they immediately get this sort of nightmare scenario of a sea of red tile roofs stretching down I-10. Well, that will never really happen because of our geography here, that we have a large percentage of the land, about 60% of the land in the Sun Corridor is actually protected in one way or another. It's national forest or tribal lands, BLM lands. So what makes the Sun Corridor unique is we've got this large, dense urban population with these wonderful protected lands nearby. So that's a real strong point for us, I think.
Okay, another strong point I think that you mentioned in the report, at least it was certainly an influence in the report, is demographics, impact on the Sun Corridor.
Yes. Well, there's sometimes an image that Arizona is an old state, that we think of Sun City and things like that. We actually have a nice advantage that we have a strong young population. We have a lot of young, eager workers that are ready to get in and do the work that we need to grow this economy. The difference, of course, is that many of them are Hispanic, and we need to figure out how to educate that population and get it to really participate fully in our economy.
Okay, those are the Sun Corridor's greatest assets. What are the Sun Corridor's greatest challenges?
That's a good question. I'd say our greatest challenge is to continue in sort of old school thinking and look at provincially at what's good for Tucson, what's good for Mesa, what's good for Phoenix, and not look at this as a whole entity.
How do you do that? How do you get that mindset change?
That's going to be tough. That's going to take a lot of creative thinking by people that are going to need to think outside of the box and sort of reach across the aisle and across the city boundaries there to look at a larger picture.
Major competitors right now for the Sun Corridor. What are we looking at here?
Well, you're looking at certainly Denver, the Front Range area, and Atlanta, places like that. And what happens when we move up to this larger stage is we end up competing with those larger players, and that's an advantage, especially if you look at a place like Tucson.
Compare us to the Front Range, the Denver area.
The Sun Corridor economy is actually larger than the Front Range economy. The Sun Corridor economy is actually larger than the entire states of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and New Mexico combined. I think a lot of people sort of think of us as still this, kind of a big city, but not that big.
Mm-hmm.
The Sun Corridor economy and the Sun Corridor population is really, really large, and it's the largest in the Intermountain West.
Okay, so with that in mind, and I remember hearing about the Sun Corridor years ago, before the recession, if you will.
Right.
And it seemed like everyone was talking Prescott to Nogales or some points close there, and we're going to be a superpower in 10 to 15 to 20 years, something like what happened?
Well, what happened, obviously, is the economy crashed. And I think that casting of it as the Sun Corridor is going to be something that happens in the future, I think that was a miscalculation. My argument has always been the Sun Corridor exists now, whether we like it or not. It's just a matter of acknowledging the reality of what's really there.
So with that in mind, last question. What do we take from this report on the Sun Corridor?
What we take from this report is we get together, we act as a global player and not just think of ourselves as a local provincial player.
And we can do that from this southwest area where really Mexico is the closest international partner?
I think Mexico is a key part of this. You know, our data tends to sort of stop at the Mexican border. But just as the Phoenix economy bleeds over into Mesa and Tucson, the Arizona economy bleeds down into Tucson, into Mexico. So that's a key part of our economy that we need to capitalize on.
Well, all right, very interesting stuff. Let's hope we hear more about the Sun Corridor and not have that big old dark period when we didn't hear too much about it at all. Good report, interesting stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We end our look at economic issues with the Global Cities Initiative, a joint project of the Brookings Institution and J.P. Morgan Chase. It's an effort to help strengthen the global competitiveness of metropolitan areas. The initiative recently held a forum here in Phoenix, and among those speaking at the event, Curtis Reed Jr., market manager for Arizona Chase. It's good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Give me a better definition of the Global Cities Initiative.
The Global Cities Initiative is an initiative between J.P. Morgan Chase and the Brookings Institute to really have a goal of reaching 100 metro cities and developing a program, a strategy around increasing exports within that city so that it can vitalize the economy, create jobs. And at this point, we've actually 21 metros have signed up, and then we've actually reached 20 of those 21.
Goal, faster job growth, and faster job growth now, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I think everyone would agree that jobs are an important part of growing our economy, and exports have become such a big part of that it's critical that metro areas participate in that.
And you're talking global exports here for the most part, or not?
Global, mostly, right. So as we think about global trade, when you think about our partners, obviously to the south of us, Mexico, North Canada being natural, but also trade, whether it's in Europe or Asia, really across the globe.
Our cities, and obviously the initiative's there for a reason, that there can be some improvement. Cities not doing as much, you think, as they could along those lines?
Well, if you think about our state, at Arizona, the backbone has always been construction, and it's been somewhat of a boom and bust from that perspective. And so really the goal is, as we look at the economy, to increase the exports. And if you look at really our exports in Arizona, they've declined over the last 7-8 years, roughly 37%, while the broader economy has actually improved by 75%.
Why is that? What happened there?
Well, there was I mentioned the real estate, tied to real estate, and so I think that sort of hid a lot of what you would normally see. And so when the downturn happened, I think it really exposed. And then there was a heavy reliance on the computer and electronics industry, and when that sort of tailed off, there was a dramatic reduction in total exports.
I know the state is awfully dependent on consumption as well. How do you shake the dependence, the Phoenix dependence, on construction, on consumption?
Well, the goal of the initiative is really three things. And we've dedicated $15 million to the Brookings Institute to really help with this. Is first, you need the research and the data. So for Phoenix proper, really the goal is, let's come in, let's produce the data, let's agree where our weaknesses are, where our strengths are, and then let's convene our public and private partners to really come together, share ideas, talk about sort of common themes, and then, like anything else, it's about the execution. So let's have an exchange to talk about those ideas and then build a strategy that we all can agree on and hold ourselves accountable to.
Has the execution in other urban areas, municipalities, are they models that Phoenix can look at? Are they models that Phoenix can say, no, we don't want any part of that? What's going on out there?
Well, that's the beauty of not being first. And so we have seen a number of cities, Chicago, San Diego, Dallas, that have actually entered into this, and we're able to look at those models and determine what are some of the common themes or things that we can learn as a city, either things that they didn't do or can do better.
So how can Phoenix basically reposition itself as a center for the global economy, for global exports, the whole 9 yards?
Well, the first key, and we talked a lot about this at the initiative, is we really need the business community to buy into this, that there's really benefit to thinking globally and thinking about their business and expanding it globally. And the only way to do this is through education and through sort of, thoughtful analysis to show if they're able to increase their business through global trade, that will then improve the bottom line, increase revenues, and then the benefits for the society as a whole is obviously job creation, and so on and so forth.
That's interesting you say that you got to get the business community to buy into this. I would think the business community would be jumping into this. Why would they not buy into it?
Well, I think like anything else, I think, what you don't know, perhaps you don't know. And so I think a lot of the comments we heard from some of the people at the Global Cities Initiatives is they want more education around this. They want a better understanding. So it's not as simple to say, I want to do business in China. Well, how do you do it?
Right.
And we're fortunate at JPMorgan Chase that we work with our clients constantly in advising them in terms of reaching other countries or doing business in other countries. And really the initiative here is about education, teaching sort of what are some of the things out there, the tools, the resources that the business community can tap into, and then feel more confident that they can enter into a global competition.
We talked about the high-tech bubble, if you will, construction, consumption, the challenges facing the Phoenix region. What are the region's strengths?
Well, the strengths are that there is a tremendous amount of people that continue to come to Arizona. I'm a perfect example of that. I'm 65 days in Arizona from Chicago.
Well, welcome to summer in Arizona.
Thank
Have
you.
a good time.
Thank you. But the reality is you've got a tremendous draw. And that is what is needed actually to continue to be competitive, is you want people coming to your state. The key is, how do we then use those resources appropriately? We need to have jobs. We need to make sure that people want to stay here, that it's an area that they want to raise their children and continue to be prosperous.
Response from the event, from the initiative, what are you hearing so far?
Excellent. Everyone that I've spoken to or have come up to me, the feedback has been tremendous. But I think there's a little bit cautious optimism. I mean, I think like a number of different initiatives, it really comes down to the execution.
Yes.
So I think we have a great framework, but the key will be what will our strategy be, and then how will we execute?
Is the equation, though, a little different, just a little moving the goalposts a little bit here in this area, because we attract so many people, because we had such a construction dependence? Can you look much at an Atlanta or a Chicago or a San Diego? Is there that much to compare to?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, clearly there's a number of positives here that I talked about, which is
Sure.
a number of people coming here. But I think we can look at those cities and look at how are they currently partnering with other countries, or thinking about global trade, or what are some things that they've done historically to attract businesses to their states and their cities. And I think we can learn a lot from those cities, and I think it's important that we, and initiatives like the Global Cities Initiatives, actually that's the benefit, because we can bring sort of that background and insight to Phoenix.
All right, good stuff. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us on this special economics edition of Arizona Horizon. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.